Unfortunately, there's bacteria down in the well. Sometimes it's naturally occurring, sometimes it can come from a faulty, leaky septic system adjacent to your well, and sometimes it can be caused by excessive rainwater runoff. Hi, welcome to our channel, All Things Cabin, where in this video I'm going to show you how we've decided to treat our well water. What you just watched me do was drop 4 chlorine tablets down into the well. I do this 3 times a day. If you own a well, you know, or you can research when the well is first drilled, or if it's serviced, you do a well shock. That's using chlorine, where you clean up and sanitize any bacteria from the equipment, from the new drill, bacteria that gets into your plumbing, etc. And I'm going to show you the packaging for the chlorine tablets that we use. Now, I'm not showing you this video to suggest this is how you should treat your well water. If you want to treat your well water, you should consult a well water expert. This video is being made after 3 years of doing every aspect of my own well, with the exception, of course, of the drilling. Now, if you're familiar with wells or not familiar with wells, you will notice that this is not a pitless adapter system. If you have a pitless adapter system, what I'm showing you probably won't work without some type of modifications that would require a professional. But let me get on to showing you more steps I've taken to sanitize and filter the well water. So maybe you're wondering why I'm showing you the inside of my toilet bowl. Well, that discoloration that's in there basically is iron, rust, whatever you want to call it. And a good majority of the earth has this in its crust. Now, I mentioned that I had been working on my well, plumbing, and water by myself over the course of 3 years. I've had to teach myself a lot of things. One thing I found is that this iron that's in the bowl gets in everything. So it's in your pipes, it's in your faucets, it's in your appliances, and eventually it's going to cause them, well, it's going to cause them problems. Let's just say that. And when I first began to take a shower or try to drink my water, you know, it tasted like metal, like pennies. My whites were very dingy. But the thing that I found was the most unusual. I filled up a 5-gallon bucket. It was a white bucket. It was a brand spanking new white bucket. I filled it up with my well water at the very beginning because I was so happy that, you know, we had water and so forth. And the next morning when I got up and I looked at the bucket, it had this slimy, oily funk on the top, like almost like a skin, but it wasn't a skin, but it was close to a skin. And I didn't understand what that was. Well, now I know what that was, or is. It's iron bacteria. The bacteria that's down in your well, whether again it comes from naturally occurring sources in the soils, a neighbor's leaking septic system, or excessive rainwater runoff that eventually gets into your well, that bacteria clings to the iron and it shows itself as iron bacteria. Now, I bought a filtration system and I thought that that was the solution. Let's go take a look at that and let me explain why that was not the solution. So a lot of viewers are probably already familiar with this. This is just one part of the filtration treatment that I do on the water. It's a sediment filter. And as you can see through the clear glass canister, it's time to change the filter because that's what a new one looks like. That's bright and white. So when I sanitize and oxidize the bacteria that's inside my water, those particulate matters, the larger ones, get picked up by this sediment filter here. But what I found, however, before I started to treat the well with chlorine tablets was that the iron bacteria was making its way through my filtration system. What it was actually doing was that it was clogging my filter media and making its way through to my drinking glass and all my appliances again. So that wasn't working. Now, I mentioned a filtration system, and this is it right here. It's actually comprised of the primary sediment filter on your top right, and then the water goes into this much finer sediment filter. Now, when that filter is brand new, it's also white. As you can see, it's starting to get to the point where you need to change it. Once the water passes through this second filtration system, it goes into a medium called KDF 85. And through chemical, electronic, whatever, the iron attaches itself to the KDF 85 material. And this very large filter does a pretty good job of getting the iron out. The water does become drinkable once it finishes going through this filtration system. And then the last filter is the carbon block. Now, these filters, the last two, the KDF and the carbon block, are both going to remove some levels of chlorine. And the carbon block also is going to provide some taste enhancement. I don't know the science behind how it does it, but I have to say my water is pretty good. Once it finishes coming out of the system, I'll drink it right out of the faucet. It's that good. And yes, I filtrate the whole house. So even my hose bibs on the outside go through this because I don't want that iron bacteria inside any of my plumbing lines. Now, one question maybe that you have is, doesn't this reduce the pressure inside the cabin? And the short answer is, yeah, it sure does. And let me show you a close-up of my gauges. This is what my pressure switch is set to. So the pressure is pretty low, but I can take a shower and wash a load of laundry at the same time. I couldn't do too much else. Earlier in the video, you watched me drop 4 chlorine tablets down into the well, and I mentioned I do that 3 times a day, which works out to about every 8 hours, roughly every 8 hours. You can buy an automatic chlorinator. They're about $1,200 just to purchase the equipment. Those will drop 1 tablet down every minute that your well pump is running. That seemed a little excessive to me. I did some math. With my well being 706 feet deep and the static water line at 165, I calculated the number of gallons of water stored, and then I looked at the EPA site for how many parts per million chlorine can be in water. Now, I don't want to drink chlorine. You probably don't want to drink chlorine. If you have pets, you probably don't want them to drink chlorine. So I really try to filter all that chlorine out, but I also hope that I've sanitized it sufficiently so that the filtration system will get the iron, bacteria, and all the other things out. So let me show you how I test my water, and then let me show you the chlorine tablets themselves. Okay, so I have this Brita water filter system here at the sink. And I do this because as I mentioned earlier, I don't want to drink chlorine. I don't want my pets to drink chlorine. So I'm doing everything in my power to make certain chlorine is out of the water. And this is surely one very good way of doing it. I think the water tastes absolutely fine. Now, I can drink it right out of the spigot, but I just am going the extra mile. Now, here on the left, this is the kit that I use to test the water. You'll notice here it says 2 bacteria tests. So I like to occasionally test for bacteria. My bacteria is effectively 0 according to the test results. And it shows here on the box that it has 100 test strips. Now those 100 test strips are stored in 4 separate packets. And the problem with the system that I've found is that once you open a packet, over time, you effectively contaminate the other strips by the air that's inside of your home. Now, the first test strip that I found, when you open a package brand new, will work great. It'll pick up, how much chlorine, how much free chlorine, and generally what I found, and I'm not going to run this test on the video, you're just going to have to take my word for it, there's no chlorine in the water, nor is there anything else that the test claims that it tests for. And you can see there on the back of the package the variety of things that this test system will test for. Now, if you're watching this video and you have other problems, be that odor or other products in your water, chemicals, naturally occurring chemicals, then this video probably isn't going to help you, because you have to treat the water specific to what's in the water. And I know from my research that a lot of people have iron in the water, as do I, and this method is very good for getting the iron out. And lastly, in closing, right before I show you these chlorine tablets, you can use peroxide. Peroxide will oxidize the iron bacteria virtually instantly, and then during that process, the hydrogen peroxide turns back into water, oxygen, and emits heat. Whereas these chlorine tablets, in order to oxidize, the bacteria or the iron, it takes about 20 minutes of contact with the water in order to perform its function of sanitizing and oxidizing. And I calculated that when I drop a tablet down into my well, it takes up to 20 minutes for that tablet to get to the bottom, assuming it even makes it to the bottom before fully dissolving. So I appreciate you watching our channel. We hope that you subscribe. If the Google tip super thanks button happens to appear, we would appreciate you doing some super thanks for us. This lets us buy more material, more equipment, and bring you videos like this. This is the packaging for the chlorine tablets that we use. They've worked out well for us. We have no affiliation for them. You're welcome to do your own research. Hey, thank you for watching, and have a great day.